what's your man? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know this is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast from some magazine says the one that initiates profound discussions of the rock and metal arts line. Fans discover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are all sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. Get $100 off the entire build using code CPOD at darkfusionsystems.com. Look for the podcast below. Today, we're going to go a little bit differently, honestly. We're going to go with someone that's trying to help out bands and artists as well. We're going to talk with Tory Smith from Black Box Prompter. We're going to be talking about the prompter that he built for the live stage to be used as a tool, as a reference guide, and not as a crutch. We also talk about how bands that are younger, upcoming, can use this and not have it be a total crutch, and what potential it has for enhancing your overall live show, energy-wise, flow-wise, and potentially just being on the fly. There's a lot of potential here, so go check it out. You guys ready? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast, we've always brought on bands and artists in the rock and metal spectrum, from small to intermediate to even large bands as well, that you now know across the world. But there have been some times where we come up with something interesting that we want to bring to you, and this is one of them. Being reached out to about a tool for a lot of artists potentially use to make their live performances better and maybe make your lives easier too. We're going to talk all about it, see what this thing is, but at the exact same time, have a fun, frank discussion about maybe if this is going to be a right thing for you or not. But this is an evolving music industry. This might be something that you want in the future, but we're going to go and look at it. So please welcome Mr. Tory Smith from Black Box Prompter, the podcast. So Tory, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, Kevin. Glad to be here.
Thanks for being on, man. How's everything going in your world at the moment? I mean, we're in 2025 right now, still having a good time. So how's life going?
Oh man, life is great. Juggling a lot. You know, got the startup, the Black Box Prompter, which we're going to get to. I've got my day job as a marketing consultant, and then I balance two cover bands. I've always been a live music nut, and so I've got a couple cover bands in the Dallas area that I'm in charge of. Have to wheel and deal, close deals, market, do all the things, load the sound gear. See if the sound guys available, all the the rigmarole that you'd expect to do in a band leader, and that's how I spend my free time. Which little free time I have, but that's pretty much what I've been doing for the past 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
But that just kind of sounds like what a lot of people in the music industry also have is their reality, where you're trying to make music, you're trying to do the best you can for your own creative aspirations, wants, and needs. But for a lot of people out there, that just isn't making ends meet right now. So you got to also have a job. You also got to be working for somebody else, making money. And it seems like there's never enough time in the day to do everything you want. I'm in that too, because I've got a full-time job. I'm here doing this too. And when I think about free time, I'm like, is that a concept anymore? I really don't know at this point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's free time. When do you sleep? That kind of thing.
If I'm lucky, maybe 1 a.m., maybe 2 a.m. is there. It's a possibility, but that's about it at this point.
Yeah. Nope. I hear you.
So, of course, bringing you on here today is really because you got this company started, Black Box Prompter. So, first thing we got to know is what is this thing that you created? What is this overall piece of equipment? And what's the story behind it? What was your inspiration to create something like this? I know it's going to be coming from your background, especially being in cover bands and seeing how all this works, but just give us the full backstory on this so we actually know what this thing is.
Absolutely, yeah. So where I got the idea, when I started my cover band, about 5 years ago, my brother was a singer, and he didn't want to be that guy with the iPad stuck in his face, or swiping the iPhone, squinting at the iPhone, right? Too many bands do that, whether you're a cover band, even professional bands. I've seen, some of these iPads in front of their faces and whatnot. And so he didn't want to be that guy. And so he got crafty. He went to the garage and found an Amazon shipping box. And no lie, he got the shipping box, cut out part of it, and wrapped it completely in black duct tape. Okay, so black duct tape blends in with the floor, sets it on the floor, and he rests his iPad inside of that black Amazon shipping box. And the audience had no idea that was his teleprompter. And I see this and I'm like, first of all, it's pretty brilliant, that you made your own kind of poor man's teleprompter. But second of all, I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And there's some DIY tutorials. And if you're handy, you can get your plywood out and get a saw and get a computer and do all that. And it might get the job done, if you're really on a budget and you're handy. But I thought, you know what? I think there's a market for it, that people just want to buy something that's all like self-contained and just done. Just turn it on and boom, the lyrics are there. And I can use a page turner and go to the next page, go back. If I need to change the chords, I can actually see the chords. I can transpose the chords, just have it all kind of built in and self-contained. And so I showed this poor man's teleprompter to a buddy of mine who was this legit rocket scientist. Like when I say rocket scientist, people typically go, haha, rocket scientist. No, this guy has a patent on the Tomahawk cruise missile. This dude is a legit effing rocket scientist. Okay. Uber brilliant. Doesn't like to be called genius because genius is actually lower than where he scores on IQ. So I meet this guy and he's a drummer and he's in his 60s. And I show him my brother's, cardboard teleprompter. And earlier that week, he had tripped over another teleprompter. I'm not going to name names, but let's just say they're a competitor and been around for a long time. And he's like, golly, this thing is clunky. And I was like, dude, we could totally build a better version of this. And so the very next day, he went to his garage and started prototyping, started sketching out, started cutting wood. And about 6 weeks after that, we launched at the International Guitar Show in Dallas. And that was May of 2024. And I'll tell you, Kevin, that was one of the most popular booths at that show. I was just amazed. I was like, man, we have something. And those were kind of prototype boxes. They weren't even fully ready. But it was the concept where people were like, God dang, it's about time. It's about time somebody did this, because people saw the need. They're just like you and I. We're tired of seeing the music stand or the tablet in their face. It's such a distraction and looks unprofessional and everything else. And so anyway, so we built it, and he helped design the hardware of it. But what I didn't know is that he's also this mad scientist, and that's really what I call him, is the mad scientist, because he's that brilliant. He builds AI, artificial intelligence, from scratch. He's just this coder deluxe. Okay, just does crazy coding, and so he's building all this stuff like completely just doing it. I'm like, holy shit, man, this is incredible. So all that to say is we built some really cool functionality into this thing. We call it the smart teleprompter, and it's smart. And we'll get into reasons why we call it smart teleprompter, but there's some stuff in here that just does not exist anywhere else. And we had the fortune of debuting this at NAMM last week in Anaheim, and the reception was amazing. It was incredible. So many people were just like, "Oh my God, it's about time." And so it was validation for us that we're on to something hot. And so all that being said, that's how it gets started. Happy to go into whatever details you guys want to know about it.
So just kind of looking back at the backstory too, of course, we hear a lot of things about when people come up with different ideas. It always starts out with the most like redneck jerry-rig thing you can possibly think of. So essentially creating a fake monitor out of an Amazon shipping box, put an iPad in to make sure that you always can have that reference point to whatever lyrics you're singing, or maybe if there's a chord that you're wanting to play and you just want to have that quick reference tool in case you forget, it's always going to be there for you. So you have a great idea right then and there. And then working with a step above a genius, so mad scientist, to create a prototype of this thing, to get it to work. And when you're showing this to professional guitar players, you're showing this to other people in the music industry, seeing it pop off in some of these like trade show environments, that is a huge validating piece that there is something here that we know prompters exist. We know those monitors exist on stage. We've seen them before. And you're also right, too, especially in more today's day and age. We've seen the iPads on stage. We've seen the phones on stage. Now, I do want to say, especially with a lot of the bands that I see in the rock and metal space, especially the younger ones, where I've seen that maybe once or twice, and I go to about 50 shows a year. So that's not something that's necessarily too common or even pretty rare at this point, but it is something that is seen. It is something that is happening in the music industry, and it can be quite distracting because it seems like the artist on stage is paying more attention to a screen than the crowd overall, and that can make anybody disengage, whether it is the performer on stage or whether it's just any member in the crowd. It's something that really pulls attention away from what's important. And what's important is the music and the energy in the room and the connection that's being created, not everyone paying attention to the fact that there is an iPad on stage that someone is essentially reading from. And Going into this overall prompter, because you're saying it's a huge hit. What was the reason why this thing was such a huge hit with so many people at NAMM and with the original show that you debuted it at?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's some features exist that I'll get into that you just can't find anywhere else. Outside of an iPad itself, right? So so set the iPad aside, right? Like literally and physically, and think about this monitor you have on the floor, right? Now, from the audience's perspective, first of all, they have no idea it's a teleprompter that you're using. They think it's a speaker or floor wedge, right? They have no clue, and it's large enough, 24 inches, where it's going to be roughly 3 times the size of your biggest iPad. So for those of us who maybe have vision issues, you can see it much clearer. There's 11 font sizes. You can increase the fonts. So a lot of the younger generation don't struggle with that, but there are some that do have visual impairments, and so that's certainly helpful. And those with memory issues as well. I mean, that's the whole point, especially as you're learning new songs. But what made it so special, what people were really saying, like, wow, that's really something, is several come to mind. The first one is ability to auto transpose. If you have this, say, rehearsal, right, and the singer is like, oh my God, can you bring that down half a step because the key it's in is just way too high. And for you to actually be able to, some people can do that on the fly because they're brainiacs. I can. I play guitar for 30 something years, and it's hard for me just to transpose on the fly. It requires some brain power. But with the black box prompter, you can do that within a couple clicks of the foot pedal to transpose the whole thing. So it reads the text. There's some logic in it, and it transposes. So that was. They're like, oh, that's cool. Which you can do on Ultimate Guitar. If any guitar players out there, you're familiar with Ultimate Guitar, it's the same sort of concept. Speaking of Ultimate Guitar, so this thing has Wi-Fi, right? You can kick off a browser. You can go out to Ultimate Guitar. We give you a keyboard. There's a way to click download PDF, right? So we actually will download it straight to the box, and it'll convert it to text. It'll parse out, which means it cuts out all the extraneous crap and leaves you the guts. And now, within seconds, you have the chord chart ready to go, downloaded straight from the web. And again, just using a few stomps of the foot pedal. There's nothing out there that exists quite like that. We did debut a brand new feature called Sing Along. Now, this is cool whether you're a cover band or an original band. Maybe you just released a new album, you got some new songs, and your audience, your fans, they don't know the words yet. Okay. So for something like this, you could legit post a QR code. The audience scans the QR code with their smartphone, and immediately the words appear on their phone, so they can sing along to the lyrics. Like that doesn't exist anywhere. There's no app to install. They just scan the QR code, and the lyrics magically appear. And so that's a brand new feature we just launched. And one of the really, really cool features that we're about to release in about 2 months. I'm hesitant to even mention it because it's not out in the public yet, but I don't mind telling your listeners, is the AI component that we're going to add. Okay, so now this isn't so much for your original artists, but I think they're going to think it's cool regardless. This is more for your cover bands taking requests, right? So you'll be able to talk to your phone, connect it to your black box, say, "Hey, black box, pull up Hotel California chords in the key of C minor." Boom, and it just boom, it fetches it and it pulls it up. Because I'll tell you, Kevin, I did some market research a couple months ago in Nashville, and every single musician took requests. That's a career, man. That's how they make their money. They're trying to make it big, and they're playing recognizable bangers that everybody knows. But it's probably a library of like 10,000 songs, and not everybody has all 10,000 songs memorized, especially how the chords go. And so what would happen? They'd make a request, right? And they say, "Hey, play such and such song." And they'd be like, "Oh, hold on a second. I need to look it up. Just a minute, And they'd say, "Oh, no. And it'd take 2-3 minutes for them to look it up, pull it up, this, that, and the other. It would just kill the vibe, totally kill the vibe. But now what if you're just able to talk to it and it just instantly appears right on the prompter? So that's going to be here in just about 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to launch that. So we're pretty stoked about it because we think that's going to be a game changer. But I didn't want to geek out too much. But those are some of the features that really stood out where people are just like, "Holy hell, I haven't seen anything like this."
So there's a couple between those last two features that you mentioned on it, especially coming from, again, the younger band, the upcoming band in the rock and metal space, because that's definitely where I'm thinking about from this. Where are some of the benefits of this? And when it comes to the QR code with the sing-along, of course, you're going to have a lot of fans that are feverish with the music, a lot of fans that already know it. A good amount of fans are going to be in the pit going wild that really don't care about the lyrics. All they care about is, are you going to make me able to go smashy against somebody? That's more my kind of speed. But you might have people, too, that are going to be interested in knowing not only like, okay, what the set list is going forward, but what song is being played, what are the lyrics to it, can I follow along with this? But you can also have something, too, to maybe match up a QR code to something else that people can look at, and they already have it scannable right in front of you, and you don't have to put a QR code like on a sticker or something, or you don't have to have your banner in the background, just have the QR code out, which I've seen some bands do. It stands out, and it doesn't have to be the biggest distraction piece overall. The AI component, though, that's something that's a little bit more interesting, especially for people that are just starting out or really trying to get something going, because already, of course, people are going to ask for requests, especially if you're like, okay, we want to play some covers, we want to play some originals, but what happens if you're like at a bar or something and you're having that more time to fill and you can't have the ability to take requests and you're able to do it on the fly? You're not going to have to wait 2 minutes for everyone to take a look at what it looks like, what the chords look like, what the lyrics are, and run from there. And even with the lyrics, especially if it's a requested song and you don't exactly know it, you're probably going to have your phone in your hand looking at it. I've seen one band do that just as a joke, just for the hell of it, just as fun. It was this band called The Void. Absolutely love the guys. During a run in 2023, they were told they couldn't tell the crowd to mosh, so they just kind of took the show in a completely different direction, and they did a cover of The Middle by Jimmy Eat World, and the singer had his phone in his hand so he could just read the lyrics. Of course, it was one of the funniest things I've seen in all of 2023, but it also stands out to where if you're younger and you're trying to get that exposure and people might not necessarily know your original stuff, but you have a crowd there, okay, how can you keep the crowd engaged? And if you have an ability to play a cover song and have a time to be able to connect with it really quickly and be able to play it without losing the overall energy of the crowd, that adds to the variability that your live show can have and add to the overall experience that you're creating there.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah. And even with the younger crowds, as you attend concerts, right? And you're going to bring friends, right? And your friends may or may not be familiar with the band. Let's say they're just vaguely familiar with the band, and they're getting into it. And especially in metal, sometimes, you get into that register where you have no idea what the hell they're saying. It sounds cool. You're in the zone. But you're like, man, what are they even talking about here? So I think it'll feed people's curiosity. But I think you hit the nail on the head, Kevin, is engagement. It doesn't matter the genre. You could be doing traditional folk country, or you could be doing death metal. Everything in between. We have a story to tell, right? And be able to actually see that story, see the lyrics in black and white that you can just pull up in a moment's notice. That's pretty cool. I saw a commercial the other day. iHeartRadio, they have a brand new app and it has all these bells and whistles. And one of the things they keep pushing is, lyrics. They can pull up the lyrics instantly. And in Spotify, I don't know if you know now, a year or two ago, there's a little microphone and boom, you hit the button on the icon and now you can see lyrics on Spotify. And karaoke is not going out of style either, right?
Nope.
People love to know the actual words being said, because how often have you listened to a song for, I don't know, many, many years, and you had no idea what the hell they're talking about? And some of the words you thought they said, you totally misinterpreted, and they were saying something totally different. And you're like, oh, that's what they're saying there. Oh, it's that kind of thing. So it just kind of increases engagement and helps helps the audience, your fan base, kind of look at it through different lens, different perspective, which I think is super cool. Regardless of the genre.
Yeah, and engagement, especially in the live show, is going to be the most important thing. Yeah. And this is where I know a lot of people have concern, not just, and this isn't strictly with Black Box, but just with prompters in general, and this is coming from, younger bands, newer bands, upcoming bands that are playing in like venues or clubs, 50, 100, maybe up to 300, 400. We're not talking about 1,000 people venues or ballrooms, stadiums, or arenas even. And we're talking about, more of those venues that you go to at, you're like a local venue that your favorite bands will come through every now and again. But because the way I look at it too is when it comes to prompters, yes, they're a great tool. Yes, they're a great reference tool. But a lot of times people are going to have concerns that you might use them as a crutch. You might use them as that thing that's always going to be there for you to look down at, look at the lyrics, maybe look at the chords, but then you're so stuck to it that you're not as engaged with the overall crowd. Your show might be going just fine. The sounds might be great, but the overall engagement isn't there because you're more focused in on the prompter than you are on the overall show itself. So I'm curious as to how you feel about something like that and how that all takes, a little bit into a different space.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's really interesting because what people don't realize is that even your professionals use teleprompters. I have a blog on the Black Box Prompter website that I just published recently called 50 Rock Stars Who Rely on Teleprompters. And sure enough, we have the legendary James Hetfield right here. And right down below is this monitor. And it's yeah, I mean he's getting on up there in age. He's probably killed a few brain cells. But yeah, it's there to glance. I always say the teleprompter is not to be glued, right? Do your homework, know your lyrics. But if you have a brain fart, and we're human, we do, all right, you have something to lean on. It's okay, we're human. It's okay to have that crutch. Most professionals filling out arenas to this day still use some sort of teleprompter. A lot of your bigger ones have a teleprompter technician. That's all they do. Their one job is to make damn sure that the right words are scrolling and appearing at the right time. Because God forbid the singer forgets a line and everything comes to a screeching halt. And that's a death way. You do not want to have that as a lead singer of a band. And so it's super, super important. But it's not taboo like people think. Even Elvis had a teleprompter back in the day. So there's really no shame in using these prompters. But to your point, you don't want to be glued to it and make it stupid obvious. That's when that just means you're not a professional, right? People will look at you as somebody at a karaoke bar, right? And that's obviously that's the furthest thing we want. But it's there as a crutch if you need it.
See, now that I totally understand. I did read through the blog as well. And one thing that stood out to me was that, I saw some of the artists there, but a lot of those artists, of course, especially from the rock and metal space, we're seeing them as larger artists and definitely artists that are well into their elder years as musicians, or some people might say past their prime. An example I remember was this would have been Welcome to Rockville and Louder Than Life in 2022 when Kiss was one of the headliners. And it was something where now everyone knows who Kiss is. Everyone knows the mystique. Everyone knows the aura. Everyone knows the energy that's there. The face paint, the colors, everyone is going there because it's Kiss. And when it came to the performance, I was left pretty disappointed. But again, these guys were old. They're in their 70s. I understand that. But someone like Gene Simmons, I saw him just stand there, and it was his feet were planted from the moment he got to the mic, and they never moved until they walked off stage. You could tell he was looking down too. And I get it, when it comes to age, like you said, sometimes you have those brain fart moments. Sometimes it's hard to remember things. The visualization might need help with it, but at the same time, it's a helpful tool. But if you see someone like that, especially as a younger artist, where if they're so stagnant and they're stuck on that prompter and they're using it as a crutch, then the focus is on the lack of energy that's being shown. The focus is on the lack of presentation that you're seeing from the earth because they're constantly looking down and they're not fully engaged with the crowd as much. And it limits the overall energy from us as the crowd as well. If we're at a show and we see a band that's playing heavier music, fast music, whether it's metalcore, punk rock, deathcore, or even thrash metal too, just anywhere in the rock and metal space, we want to feel that passion. We want to feel that flair. And when bands are running around on stage and they're adding to it, it's a huge feeding frenzy in overall emotion. So that's always one thing I'm very concerned about seeing other bands in the past, seeing mostly older bands though, because they have a lot more songs to play at times. They've got a lot of other things going on in the world, and it's hard to remember things as time gets on. Plus, in a bigger space, in a bigger setting, it seems like it might be a lot easier to work with that because you're not as up close with all the fans as you would be in like a club show or a house show.
Yeah, that's a good point. Your club show, you need maybe one, maybe two multiple musicians. You could have more prompters, but the bigger the stage, they're running around. I mean, you've seen them. They're all They're all spread out. Now,
Mhm.
going to your point of, the younger musician, well, they haven't killed off all the brain cells that the 70-year-old Gene Simmons has, True. However, I know my wife and kiddos went to see Billie Eilish a couple months ago, and they had pretty good seats. And even she had some kind of prompters
Mhm.
throughout the stage, but she couldn't tell if they were for the lyrics or if it was just for the set list to see what song was
Mhm.
coming next. Because with all the lights, and I think this was in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I forget how big that stadium, but it was tens of thousands, of people, and there's lights, and she's running around all the stage and whatnot. So having it on a piece of paper, a white piece of paper,
Mhm.
might get blinded out or washed out by the massive spotlight shining on it. So I could see, okay, maybe the teleprompter she had was the set list. And so, but that's again, same kind of reason there. I mean, there's definitely justification to have something like that, even if you don't necessarily need them for the words. And yeah, and going back to your point, it's like, is that something that would really be useful? Yeah, I think any age. I mean, definitely more so in the older
Mhm.
folks, older generation, because of the reasons I mentioned, the vision issues and the memory lapses. But I lost my train of thought. But just to have it there as a crutch if you need it, so you don't falter, behind the mic.
Understandable. So, from your perspective, especially as the over like one of the overall creators of this prompter and overall a user of prompters as well, especially when it comes to your time in a cover band, put yourself in a younger, up and coming original rock or metal band's shoes. Say you're playing at a crowd in a venue, let's say cap of around 300 people. So it's not a big venue, not necessarily a hole in the wall venue, but one that's going to have a stage and is dedicated to music at some capacity. Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to having a prompter there and you want to create the most energetic live show, in your mind, how could you use that prompter for maximum effect in order to make sure you're using it the way it should be used as not a crutch, while also continue to still bring that energy and bring that overall passion that's going to resonate with the crowd and make sure that crowd sees the best show possible?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the prompter is there as a tool to give that performer the most confidence possible. Because if you don't have to worry about forgetting your line, or if you're a guitar player, forgetting that chord, and you can lean on it, it's giving you the opportunity to deliver your best performance. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one is, if you're gonna do a high energy show and you have pyrotechnics, you have flames shooting out and some other things you're running around, there's a lot of stuff happening, at some of these shows, and it's easy, especially if there's alcohol involved. It's
Mhm.
easy to kind of get off track. Doesn't matter your age, whether you're 22 or 72. You get caught up in the moment, you get caught up in the excitement, or you had one too many. Then absolutely having that cheat sheet, as I call it, can save your ass from just falling flat on your face and forgetting your line, or playing the wrong chord if you're the guitar
Mhm.
player. And so I just think, again, it's a tool to help, again, deliver your most confident performance. And if it's a safety net, really, to fall on in case you do fall.
Totally understandable. And I know that was the original intention of it, was to be that little cheat sheet, to be that safety net, just to be that quick reference tool so that if you got lost, if you lost your place, or if you just weren't sure about how something was supposed to be sung or how some progression was supposed to be played, you could quickly look at it, you could quickly glance down, see what it is, and then go with it from there and not have the show get stopped or not have the energy die down while you're still
Mhm.
able to continue on, again, as a reference tool, not as a crutch. And I know you use something like this because you're the creator of it. You have the cover bands as much as you have. So what tools and what tactics do you use when you're playing to make sure that you don't use something like this as a crutch?
Tool. Well, I use it as a crutch, but to not use it as a crutch, well, I mean, okay, you'll see me with it on some shows, other shows you won't. Typically, the shows that you'll see me with it is when it's a brand new material, and the song modulates, and it's like, okay, now there's a whole nother set of chords. I'm a guitar player, rhythm guitar player in my band. And so I'll absolutely use it as a crutch because shit, man, I just forgot how that bridge went or how it modulated or whatever. And so I think, music's interesting. It can take twists and turns, and you think you have it down packed, and every now and then, you don't have it learned as well as you should have, or memorized as well as you should have. And so, yeah, so I absolutely, but do I use it every single performance? No, but at the same time, I'm playing a lot of the same songs over and over again that I've been playing for years. And even if I had one too many to drink, I'm still going to pass with flying colors. And the guys that are touring or they're playing, a couple shows a week or whatever, they're likely in the same camp. But when you're introducing new material and you think you locked it into your long term, but you haven't, and there's just that one slip up. This is again, it's there for that to be a safety net to catch you if you fall. So I don't know if that answers your question, but other tools, again, if I didn't have a teleprompter, I would just have to really try to do memory tricks, to memorize things. But again, I hate to have to do that when I can cheat and have that cheat sheet. And going back, it's not being glued. I mean, we should have done our homework. It's not karaoke. It's glancing. It's just getting a quick glance and moving on, and boom, off to the races.
So that was kind of the thing I was mostly wanting to focus in on, was just, I know a lot of people when it comes to having, again, when you brought up the whole iPad, iPhone thing, it was like people were always glued to it. They were using it directly as that crutch to make sure that they always got it perfect. But the distraction of it completely took away from a lot of the intimacy or the energy or the attraction that a live show could offer. So when it comes to making sure that as an artist, if you are using a prompter, to have that as a quick reference tool, as that cheat sheet, you're not relying on a crutch. Yes, memory tricks will work out. Yes, that'll help. But I love what you said too when it comes to, you're not using it when you're playing a lot of the same songs. You're playing a lot of the same set over and over again. Because I'm thinking about the bands that I get to go and see live, the bands that I get to go and enjoy. And they will always have, the songs that you always want to listen to. Like I've got my Alpha Wolf shirt on right now. They're always going to play Akudama pretty much at the end of the album, or in the set. But when I got to see them on their first headline run in the US in April of 2024, they had a brand new album that just came out earlier that month, and they're playing about 6 songs off of that brand new record. So when it comes to playing these songs live for the first time, you might want to have something like that there to quickly glance at, whether it's lyrics or chords or any other progression that you might have on there, because how is that going to play off, and how are you going to get used to that sound when all of a sudden something might quickly change up? There might be something that goes wrong with your in-ears, or just because it's a brand new place in the set list, you might not just have that mental memory or that muscle memory that lets you just kind of play it and is as flowing as possible without even thinking about it. So it allows for that quick reference, especially for new stuff, to make sure that you're getting it right as you're training your brain essentially in the live setting to know what calls stand out for what piece, what comes after what when you hear it. So you're mentally thinking about it or mentally just subconsciously going after it. But if you forget about it, it's right there because, hey, it's new. We got to learn this stuff, right? And we've had open note tests in school before. I mean, shit, I had open note exams in college, so why can't musicians have
I haven't used that metaphor before, Kev. I'm gonna have to start using that one. That's a good one. That's a good one. And I think I touched on this earlier, but it's worth repeating. The audience has no clue. They have no idea it is a teleprompter. Unless again it's a big arena and they're at a specific angle where they're high up in their seats and they're zooming in. Okay, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a club of 1,000 or less people, right? It looks like a speaker monitor from the floor. And so it is a performer's little secret. It's a little secret, and it's fine. And there's no shame in it. As long as you don't make it obvious, then there's no shame on leaning. But yeah, I mean, hey, it's a test, but here are all the answers right here, But don't let me catch you looking at it the whole time, Just a sneak a peek every now and then. Yeah.
Or using that overall metaphor that I came up with where it's, it's a test and it's like a college exam, but it's open notes. What's going to be the best way that you can get through that exam and make sure you ace it? You're going to have to study the material. You're going to have to know the material and make sure that your notes are organized. So when you get to something and you need that quick reference, you can just throw your notebook open to this one page. You know exactly where it is. look at the answer, and now you get this perfect equation for overall like exponential growth when it comes to certain markets in, Chile and South America. Why did I bring that up? Because that's what I studied. I was an econ major in college, so I gotta throw a little bit of that in there. But if I just went into an exam like, okay, I went to all the lectures, I got my notes here, I'm not going to study because it's open note. I get to that exam. Now, I didn't study, so it's not locked in my brain, or it's not, I see something I don't know. Maybe I have to take some time to remember what it is. Now I have to flip through my notes to find it and then work through that mindset to quickly figure out where all this goes. And by the time runs out, I may have only gotten through half the test. So that's where relying on it as a crutch in that term kind of goes different than, just using it as a quick reference guide. You're going to have to learn this stuff, and you will learn it as you continue to practice it and you continue to go forward with it. But we're going to have those slip ups. There's just the one thing we don't want to do is constantly be looking down and be disengaged with the crowd and disengaged with the audience as we're playing. If we look down real quickly and look right back up, the audience isn't going to notice because we see the speakers and the monitors up front all the time. And even myself, I don't even know what the front of those things look like from the, even if I'm, in the front row, even on some of the crazier shows, the smaller shows where you can jump on stage and go, crowd surf and, jump back into the crowd and have a great time with it. You're not looking at the prompters either. You're not looking at the monitors. You're just going up there having a good time. So even when you run up there as a fan, you don't notice it. I can't even remember. There's probably a band that had one. I just didn't even notice it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's stealth. It's discreet. It's covert. That's the word I was looking for. It's covert. And that's the point. That's the whole point. You want it to blend in the floor. You don't want to make it stupid obvious. So man, it's just one of those deals where I think it was long overdue to have something like this, because there is a better way. I mean, we want it to become the industry standard over time. That's our hope. We're kind of just getting our feet wet on this. Awesome reception so far from musicians, AV folks, churches, anybody that's performing on stage, regardless of genre. I'm even thinking about talking to like news journalists. Have you ever seen like somebody live, a field reporter, and they have they have their cell phone, their smartphone in their hand. Yep. And they're reading the notes live on camera. And how unprofessional does that look? And so I was like, man, they should get you a black box and have their notes right there out of the shot, right out of the frame where folks back home have no idea that they're cheating. So I don't know. I think there's lots of use cases for it. But yeah, definitely. Somebody filling out a crowd of 500 people, 1,000 people, and you're trying to increase engagement, or you're wanting to send lyrics to everyone's phone where they don't have to install anything. They can just scan a QR code and boom, it's there. I think there's definitely some benefit there to increase engagement. And then I think the biggest one, of course, like we said, is just being as confident as you can, and trying to reduce those slip ups.
Bringing up the overall newscasters thing too, I don't watch a lot of news. It's just I'm not as interested. But if I'm in the gym, usually one of the TVs has it on. I'm forced to stare at it while I'm doing cardio. And my God, have I noticed that whether they're out in the field and they have their phones in their hand, they're reading off of it, or even if they're in the studio and they have the iPads in their hands and all of a sudden they're saying something and the teleprompter is right in front, but then they look down. It's just like, it's so obvious to tell. And it takes away from, do you really know what you're doing? Are you just here to just speak? Is like that your profession? Are you actually like, did you actually listen to this stuff or read this stuff? Do you believe this stuff? So it does make sense where you could expand into other markets outside of music as well with this and have it be something that stands out, especially for, use newscasters as a mobile teleprompter, not one that has to be set, connected to that big camera and have it set right in front of the desk for them to read. Makes a lot of sense. And I like the fact that, again, we brought up the QR code, brought up you're integrating AI in it. That brought up actually an idea in my head when it comes to bands that are playing a lot of original music, because I know you can upload a whole entire set into this thing, upload multiple sets into this thing.
Sure.
Is there a way for there to be potential for, like, okay, this piece is going to go longer, we're going to improvise on this? Is there a way to maybe add something like that in there in real time, or is that too advanced where the technology is not even there yet?
Well, sorta. Let me see if I can answer that. We do include a wireless keyboard with a trackpad, and so if maybe you're on break or whatever, you can go in and quickly edit the set list directly on the box. Okay, you don't have to go back and forth with a laptop and a USB thumb drive and all that. You can actually make edits. Now, one of the features that we're going to be releasing later this year should be summer, and for those listening, this is early 2025 right now.
Hmm.
We're going to give an application for the sound guy or an AV tech to be able to send alerts to the prompter, right? Or to maybe advance the songs. Maybe you, the singer, don't want to advance the song because you're bouncing around on stage, running around with your head cut off, right? You want your sound guy to handle that, and so your sound guy will be able to flip the pages for you. And control that. And if he needs to send an alert or make some sort of note or hey, skip this next song, go right into blah blah blah, whatever. Yeah, absolutely. That's a feature that we've had requested fairly recently, so we're gonna bake that in.
I'm glad I asked that because there's times where bands, something happens, no show ever goes perfectly, like 100% perfect. Usually something's not right. I've seen times where shows get completely derailed by one thing or another, whether it's weather. That's kind of funny. Whether it's weather, or if it's something like I've seen this before, a cup of water, a cup of beer on like a speaker, and because they left it on there while the band was playing, the vibration tipped it over and completely ruined a couple of pieces of equipment.
Oh
It
yeah,
just stands out to where it's, you're gonna have to make decisions on the fly. You're gonna need that ability to do something like that, and the fact that not only has that been brought up to you guys, but you're also working on it too, just speaks to the viability of what this product can do, or what you guys are able to do with this prompter to help out musicians, to be that quick reference guide. And if the sound guy or somebody else has control of it, so someone like the lead singer can run around stage with a chicken like with his head cut off, or jump in the crowd even and have an absolute blast, and then quickly get up back on stage. And if they need that quick reference guide, they don't have to do something with it. There's someone else that has the ability to control to get them to that next point. It makes the show seem so seamlessly going from one
absolutely.
song to the next, and the energy and the vibe and everything continues. It doesn't stall.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And that's the point. And what you touched on about, hey, can I do this? Can I do that? We are really big. I mean, running our own company, we're really big on listening to our customers, okay, and incorporating their feedback. I can't promise every request they say, can I do this? I can't promise it'll always happen, but if we think there's enough demand for it, enough use case for it, absolutely, we're gonna try to see what we can do to make it work out because. If you get enough of those requests, then chances are over time that's going to scale, and you're going to have a lot of people with that
Mhm.
same kind of request. And that's the beauty of being able to build something like this into a smart teleprompter that we're very adaptive and reactive to our customers' wants and needs. And so if any listeners are out there, and you're like, man, it'd be really cool if you could, I don't know, make my bed and wash my laundry. I will look into it and see. That was a poor example, but you know what I mean.
Hey,
So
I mean, you never know. There's a lot of bands out there that could definitely use a portable washer and dryer.
yeah, 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 exactly. Speaking of, one of the requests we got at NAM last week was, hey man, this is cool, but man, is there any way you could kind of collapse it to where it's not so big and bulky, And
Mhm.
I'm like, let me talk to my product designer. And so I talked to him this morning, and we have this concept now of a pizza box. Imagine right now it's a little boxy, the prompter is,
Mhm.
and it's like 26 pounds, not too heavy, but it's just one like cabinet. It's like a little speaker cabinet, basically about half the size of like your typical QSC or EV speaker. But dude, imagine if it could like collapse down like a pizza box, and then you could with a handle on the side, and you could just tow it from gig to gig. That I thought that was a pretty brilliant idea. So we're working on that next, because again, we try to listen to the needs of our customers because we're here for you guys. We want to build a better mousetrap. So
And if you're not there for your customer, you're not listening to them, then, you're just potentially going to be losing out on a lot of the wants and needs from artists, a lot of the abilities that technology can allot you. Because think about this. Let's go back before the pandemic. So this is before 4-time, long ago, 2019. I know that's scary, but think about where music was and where technology was then and where it is in 2025. The industry has vastly changed. Technology has vastly changed. The live show has changed. I'm not going to say drastically, but the live show has changed, and what people are putting importance on when it comes to being that live setting has changed as well. So as time goes on, and as this continues on, because in the next 6 years, things are going to change as well. We're going to see AI be more integrated in things. We're going to see the improvements of that as well. And we're also going to see how these other pieces of live shows end up being transformed. Maybe you can put something in there too where someone on stage, whether it's the vocalist, guitarist, even the drummer as well, could be able to do something with it, with the prompter, and have a piece connected to it that could activate something that enhances the live show overall, like an interface and connectivity with the light show. And you already brought up connecting with the sound guy as well. If it becomes this potential prompter that also has more connectivity to it, that allows for a greater reach and a greater customization, that allows the live show to be enhanced, you never know exactly what might be able to happen with that. But that all comes from what people are looking for, what artists need, and how can you deliver on those needs. So you have something that is a great product right now in order to be a reference tool for people to continually make great music and continually perform great music. But you also have a tool that is adaptable to allow so much more for the live show and be able to create more customization with the live show, but even on the fly as we get progressing through this, rest of the decade.
Yep, 100%. So yeah, we're going to continue listening to our customers. We're going to continue to observe, and then we're going to continue to really make this kind of as much of a self-contained kind of one-stop shop box that will alert you of whatever news, whatever news notifications, alerts that you'll need to be notified as a live performer, so that you have everything you need and that you don't look like an idiot while you're on stage.
You see that notification that comes through that says, "You guys played well, free drinks at the bar."
Exactly. Hey, speaking of that, we're another thing we're going to launch this year is now again, this is for your cover bands, but imagine if somebody wanted to tip you, right? They request a song and they tip you. You could scan a QR code. You could tie it to Venmo, Zelle, Apple Pay, any of those, and they request a song, and then boom, it tells you who tipped you, how much they tip you, and what their song request was for, and it just shows up. So that's coming down the pike as well. So anyway, so cool features like that, So I mean, the sky's the limit, just to have little blips of information fed to you while you're performing, that helps you, certainly doesn't distract from your performance.
Well, not only that, but can you imagine, this is not necessarily from the cover band standpoint, but from the live band standpoint and the original, like live originals. So just like, a band that you'd see again, we're going to go back to the 300 cap room. Let's say you're playing 10, 11 songs. What happens if you have this and you have a way for fans to essentially vote at that show what song they want to hear? Like you could have songs 1 through 7 be set of what you want it to be. Songs 8 through 9 be fan requests, and you could have 4 options for each. And in real time, they can vote at the show. It's not like a raise your hand if you want this or make noise if you want this. No, they can actually vote. You can see the overall vote total.
Yes.
And then in the prompter, the lyrics and the chords quickly come up so you have that as a reference point. Yes, you've practiced those songs. Yes, you know those songs. But what happens if you're not used to them in that part of the set at a given time? Well, now you have it right there for you.
That's
and
brilliant.
You're not losing the overall show flow.
Absolutely. That's like a real live survey, a real live poll.
Yeah.
That you're polling your audience, and how have we done it traditionally? It's whoever can scream the loudest. Do you want to go with the green pill or you want to go with the blue pill? It's whoever screams the loudest, right? But this you can actually quantify. And you could even have a wild card. Maybe it is an original artist, but you're like, all right, guys, just for shits and giggles, we're gonna play a cover song, and you give them the option of 3 songs, and whichever one to vote for most, and they're gonna go nuts, that they're gonna mix in, they're gonna sprinkle in, because a lot of original artists like to sprinkle in a cover to pay homage to a legendary artist, and the chances are if that band thinks highly of the band they're covering, chances are the fans do too. and you sprinkle those in. And again, you're just talking about increasing engagement. But that ability is not really available right now. It doesn't exist right now. So we're talking kind of conceptually, but give it some time, and then yeah, I think Black Box Prompter would be the tool that would allow for that exact same thing to happen. I'm gonna write that one down, by the way, Kevin. I think that's a good idea.
Or another way you can add to it too is if bands don't want to do, okay, pull out your phone and vote. If they want to do that, all right, let's see which one gets the loudest reaction. What happens if you have a microphone in there and it essentially reads the decibels, and whoever gets the highest decibel count, it hits, because then you're still in that audience participation, and it's not having people have to pull out their phones in real time. Yes, that's still quick, but if you have them just do that classic, okay, scream for this, or scream for this. Now you've got an actual decibel reading. Okay, this one was the loudest. And essentially you did that in 30 seconds. And it's quick, and the fans are engaged, and no one loses it. So yeah, write that down. Use that as a potential idea. And who knows, maybe in a couple of months that becomes a new feature on Black Box Prompter.
Well, take it a step further. Now you have video. Now you have a video wall with a projector, right? And then you take the poll or the decibel, and then you have a visual of the decibel, and you can see you have kind of section A, section B, section C, and you have all the decibels, they're going, and then you have a winner. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. Sports teams use that all the time. Professional teams use that all the time, where it's like, get loud, and you can see the meter going up. And
exactly.
It's like,
do that in a live show. Why not?
Yeah, connect with the fans, connect the audience. But those are some great ideas, and not only that, but you've been able to implement ideas from other artists and other musicians into the box already, and there's plenty more that can be integrated in there. And it's all on for you guys to try this out and work with it. So this could not only be a tool used as a prompter, but uses another tool to enhance audience engagement in a completely different way.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Perfect. Well, Tory, I do want to thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast today. Normally, I end this stuff by just, telling everybody everything else, but I'm going to let you take it away with it when it comes to Black Box Prompter. Tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find the prompter, and where they can get to know more about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. If this interests you at all, or you want to learn more, please visit the website at blackboxprompter.com. And if you're like, dude, I totally want one of these, you can get 10% off by using the promo code CPPOD. That's CP, Chord Progression Pod. And then that'll knock off 10% off of your total. Yeah.
So go use the code, because who doesn't want 10% off? I mean, how awesome is that?
If you order now, that was a nice kind of infomercial voice you had there.
But wait, there's more. If you order now, you'll get a second ShamWow for free.
A ShamWow, right? ShamWow. Yeah, but if you are in the 48 continental United States, we do throw in free shipping. So that is true. We do cover shipping, but yeah, and we throw in a hardcover so it protects the screen and blah blah. But it's all kind of a bundled deal where we throw in the keyboard, the protective screen, the hardcover, the pedal. And all the software is in there. You don't have to pay a subscription to use the software, which is pretty cool as well. So anyway, but Kevin, man, thanks for having me on your show. I love talking about how we can improve confidence for performers. Talking about some of the new tools out there. Because this is how people find out about it is through podcasts like yours. It's not necessarily going to be easily found on Google. But you have a solid listener base, and it's your kind of outlet that really helps get the word out and stuff like this. So thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'll get the word out even better. So when it comes to Black Box Prompter, when it comes to making sure you find them online, when it comes to following along with what they got going on. So if you're interested in this, you can get to find out some more of those features, get to see if this is going to work for you. Go to description of the podcast where it says find Black Box Prompter online. Links, labels, or everything are going to be there for you to check out. So I got you covered on this one when it comes to searching this up. The promo code will be down there as well for you to check out. So be sure to go and do that if you're interested. It's all down there for you. Well, I got a second thing for you, Tory. And whenever I guest on the podcast or join the podcast, I always tend to make a certain promise as a way to say thank you. I appreciate it. And normally it's I wish to continue to support your band in the future, but this time it's I wish to continue to support you and your business in the future. So when I get a chance to actually meet you in person, because I feel like I'm going to see this hat come up a little bit more often. Plus, if I'm down in Texas, I'm going to have to reach out and be like, hey, buddy, how's it going? But when that time comes, I will come find you. I will come and say hi to you. But the real promise is, first round's on me.
I won't talk you out of it.
Good. And now it's time for number 3. Tory, I want to again thank you for coming to the podcast. I do not end these episodes by saying goodbye. That is way too fun. I made you a promise, and who knows, maybe in another year or so, we'll see how far Black Box Prompter has gotten. We might have to do a follow-up on this. So
that would be awesome. Yeah.
A full-on another conversation about this. But until that time, this is not goodbye, my friend. This is, I'll see you later. Well, folks, my interview with Tory Smith from Black Box Prompter. Now it's time for Kevin's final thoughts. So this one was a little odd for me, not gonna lie, and I was a little concerned going into this just because I'm like, this isn't a band, this isn't an artist, this is someone that's creating a tool for artists, and I usually don't go with something like this. Plus, when I saw what it was, I'm like, a prompter? Come on. I've seen people say stagnant on stage and potentially use prompters as a crutch, and that is a terrible thing. And that's why I know when he brought up his list of like 50 rockers use it, I immediately went to Kissing Gene Simmons because I saw that live. I mean, it was there's no connectivity. It's just taking a lot out of the show. But what I really liked what Tory did was like he not only took those, potential criticism for a prompter in stride, but I really wanted to get a look at, when artists are using this, how can you make sure you don't use this as a crutch? How can you make sure that this isn't going to be something that, negatively impacts your overall connection with the audience or negatively impact the flow of the show and the energy of the show? Yes, prompter's been around for quite a while, but if we're not asking those questions and asking, not only how artists can mitigate this, but what the actual value of this is, then what's the point of actually, looking into this or trying this? That's why I'm glad he came in and answered those questions and actually took them in stride as well, because now you get a better idea potentially as a younger artist. Is this something you want to try out? Is this something that's going to be right for you? And should you go for it? Who knows? But go be sure to check out Black Box Prompter. Link in the podcast below along with that promo code. So go check it out. Be sure to follow along with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Hit subscribe to the podcast right down here. Hit the like button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Like the episodes to push them the algorithm. I want to thank Tory for coming on. And that's going to be everything. Thank you for listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin. And you guys know how I end every single way. That was a big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!